Hardcore Lies.
Hey guys, Rob from Georgia here with you. I'm your Wednesday evening host here at BodyBags. It is week 393. It is label week. It is 88 films week. First time I believe that we have actually dealt with 88 films. So that's pretty cool. And then I'm gonna look at Killer Crocodile 2 from 88 films. Directed by one Gianneto de Rossi, of course. If you love Italian horror, if you just love horror, you know his name, right? I mean, who doesn't know his name? From 1990, part of a nice little box set that 88 had put out. The Killer Crocodile box, both films, Killer Crocodile 2, I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, Fabrizio de Angelis directed the first one. De Rossi created the Killer Crocodile, the effects and stuff, but then he was elevated to the position of director for the sequel. And if you believe him, which I don't on this account, all his movies that he directed, as far as he's concerned, are trash. I don't really necessarily believe that. Killer Crocodile 2 may not be winning no Oscars, but if you love Italian film, there's a few reasons why. If you've never seen it, you ought to see it. And as well, I mean, if you're region free, there's a reason to get something like this box set from 88 films. Aside, I remember it being pretty affordable. I might have caught it on a sale or something, but it does pay to be region free. So, Killer Crocodile 2. Richard Crenna comes back. He's the guy from the first one. I think there's two people that actually come back. Joe might come back as well. Richard Crenna, who plays Kevin, his dad, of course, is, I'm probably getting this wrong too, the lieutenant colonel or major or whatever, colonel, I think, Rambo's colonel in the Rambo movies. The same Crenna, man, it's his son, which is pretty cool. Debra Karr is Liza, and then Ennio Girolanni, I think Girolanni probably is Joe, of course. He comes back, and I need to say this. It's kind of a small credited cast, but I have to say this. I don't know where they're at exactly because I'll be honest, I need to go back and rewatch the movie just to pinpoint them. But both Dardano, Sacchetti, who again, if you're a fan of Fulci, if you're a fan of Italian cinema, Sacchetti's a name you know well. And Angelis is producer. Both of them have credits for acting in this movie, although I can't remember exactly right where they are. If you remember where they are, please drop a comment down below and fill me in with some insight there. I appreciate it. It is a Fulvia film. Again, a lot of Italian films are. It's a pretty good package from 88 films. No real documentaries or extras, at least on part 2. I can't remember part 1. There is a pretty good interview with de Rossi, though, which spans much of his career. And then, of course, he arrives at the doorstep of the Killer Crocodile films. And that's, of course, among the few things he talks about. He does talk about his the films that he directed being trash. I really don't agree. Like I said, you can't really compare Killer Crocodile, those two films, to the earlier heyday of Italian cinema. That is an unfair judgment. And Italian cinema, anyways, horror Italian cinema, it's, look, there's no lukewarmness about it. I mean, you generally are either cold or hot to it. You either love it or you hate it. There really rarely is anyone in the middle on Italian cinema. I'm one of those that love it, man. I love it. But what's really cool about Killer Crocodile 2 is, aside from Gianneto de Rossi being elevated just from special effects into the director's seat, we've seen that before in the past, haven't we? Where the special effects guru gets a crack at directing. I don't know if directing was really his thing. Special effects is definitely de Rossi's thing, and how freaking awesome was it to see him come out of, not really retirement, but, come out of not really doing much to do the special effects for High Tension, that Alexander Aja's film. How freaking awesome is that? He needs to do that a little more often to get some hands-on practical effects. But what's really cool about, or maybe, I don't know, cool's the wrong word, but what's interesting about Killer Crocodile 2 is it comes in 90, right? And there's a few guys on here on project that if you just span it back to 79, they were all together with Fulci on that project. I mean, you got the Angelis producing, although he's uncredited, Sacchetti had his hand in the writing process. I think his wife did most of it, or at least his wife is credited for, I think his dad died, and he was having a really hard time dealing with subject matter that dealt with death. But he still was part of that, and of course he has a nice, good part of his career with Fulci. And then of course, Gianneto de Rossi does the effects. So you got a few of these guys, man, that, I don't know, maybe Killer Crocodile 2 is these guys' last hurrah. I'm not sure if they do anything else post this film together quite like this. So right there is reason enough. If you want to just bookend from 79 to 90 Italian cinema, just between those two films, there's a reason why you need to have this on your shelf. Aside from that, it is a fun movie. It really does pick up on the first one, just after, down in the Caribbean, of course, you got a journalist going down there to do some investigating. There's a rich guy, real estate guy, that's trying to build a resort of some sorts down there. You've got a hungry giant crocodile starting to chomp on some of the citizens, and there's this notion that some of this chemical stuff is still left over from the previous film, of course. And so there's this thought and idea that people are still getting away with stuff, so let's go see. And of course, you get them in the script. I would say maybe, aside from some of the crocodile effects, maybe just a couple of some of the sequences, I would say maybe the writing is the strength in terms of the story arc in this film. It's not the tightest thing in the world, but it's pretty tight. It's better than what you would expect, and I think a large part of that is probably Sacchetti being involved in that. So they, so you get the confluence of these, our heroes trying to put an end, of course. It does get a little cheesy, even by Italian standards, maybe, in terms of Crenna's dealing with this crocodile towards our finale. But it's a fun ride, man. It is a fun ride. Now, I will say there's a couple sequences that do stick with you. The chopping down of the nuns and the children is pretty unnerving, man. Well, unnerving maybe kind of strong. But it does lend to a sort of, you seriously going there? Oh yeah, we're going there. And it's not like really that violent, but it's just the notion of it, I guess. There is a pretty cool scene where the crocodile invades a house on stilts, sort of, that's on the water. You got a couple bad guys in there. I'm pretty sure they were bad guys. And but he pretty much invades that house and ends up pulling it off into the water, which is a pretty cool sequence. Aside from those two sequences, you got the sort of angle with the camera behind the crocodile, much like you get in Jaws eventually. This notion of being riding up on its back sort of perspective. You kind of get that. Aside from that, kind of stuff. I think, for me personally, I tell you, one of the great surprises of these two films for me was the first time I popped in Killer Crocodile, and to my shock and surprise, and Van Johnson, I did not know he was in the first one, and I love him and I adore him from the old 50s war films. I think Battleground is one of my favorite films. I've seen it maybe a million and one times. I wish, I don't know, remember what happened to his character in the first one, but it would be, he doesn't die until like 2008. It would have been really cool if they could have somehow brought him back for the second one in some capacity. That would have been pretty cool. But aside from that, you do have some pretty credible hands-on work in terms of its composition, its music, the writing, of course. Cinematography is pretty good. You got the guy who did Cannibal Ferox involved on this. You got Goodwin, who's one of the guys on the special effects team. He'll work with Rossi again on Ramble 3 of all things. Rossi has a pretty extended filmography in terms of effects and makeup and stuff. It's pretty freaking cool. And one of the things you might not know about Gianneto Rossi is he provided the optical effects for Let Sleeping Corpses Lie, which is pretty Spanish/Italian venture there that we're all familiar with, I think. So I mean, there is a few interesting, notable things, reasons why, if you're region free, you ought to. I'm not sure if 88 still has this box set up. They may. I didn't check. I should have. But it's a fun romp, man. It's a fun romp. It's not near as bad as De Rossi lends itself to be. I don't think. He does say, though, that as a director, he really was on the set more as a fan of the process, I think, than as a director. And so I wonder how this film would have turned out had he been more of a director in really directing instead of just sort of gliding along with the process, if that makes any sense to you. I'm not sure how much sense it makes to me exactly, but that's how he sort of explained it. And so, I mean, I get it. You know, maybe directing just really wasn't quite his thing. But we all know special effects was. I mean, Zombie, clearly, and the work he does with Fulci later on is pretty outstanding. The film is a bit of a romp. It's fun. I love Italian cinema. I'm not going to tell you not to check it out. If you have any heart at all for Italian cinema, man, it really ought to be on your shelf. At least the 88 boxing of it. It's nice. You know, 88 does well on their cardboard boxing. It's pretty sturdy. And the cover art's pretty cool. And so, I mean, it's fun. Most Italian cinema is fun, especially when you get to celebrate a special effects guru like De Rossi, who gets a chance to actually direct something, which is pretty cool. Anyways, real quick, not sure what my time is, but I'm just going to pause it for a second to see where my time is, because I do have an announcement I want to say. So I'm just going to pause this thing for just a second. Okay, my time's pretty good right now, so I'm just going to take a moment, just share with you guys that my wife and I, my family, we've recently purchased a house. Our closing date is on April 12th. I think our move day is April 17th. So some transitioning coming out in front of me. Eventually all this stuff's got to come down. It's going to have a new environment, I think a little better of an environment, instead of being crammed into this U-boat that I commonly refer to this house as. A U-boat. We're going to be in a little bit better situation here soon. So we're very, very, very happy as a family. So in the next couple of weeks, in the next month or so, once we really get into that transition, there may be a few in the car outside type reviews, just because I may be without a home to do a traditional review. So, but I'm going to do my best to stay right on target where I need to be to do that. But that's it's just in light of the year that has passed with COVID and everything else. To be at this moment and to have this in our family right now is just a real blessing. So very happy that's coming up in the future. So yet one more different place I'll eventually be doing reviews from, and that'll be cool. So it is 88 week. Hope you guys just stay plugged in and check out all the reviews as they continue to drop. Of course, this is Wednesday, as they continue to drop throughout the week, and then we'll roll into a couple random weeks, and then at the end we got a special theme week, compliments of Chris, our Thursday reviewer, and it ought to be a nice closeout to this month, and then we just continue to roll on closer to week 400. I think comes the month after, which is really phenomenally cool that we're almost at week 400, which is really cool. So. As always, thank you so much for the support you guys give each and every day you plug in and check out our many reviews, and really appreciate it. Thank you. And as always, we end these things off with Go Bills.
This is not a dream, not a dream.